You are now listening to Mr. Z Blackneffect.
What's going on, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. Not using, pushing the time back this morning, and pushing the time back all the way to tonight until 9 o'clock, and then still being an hour late. What you got going on? Life is life, y'all. Life is life. Life is life. We here, though. We're here, right? We're here, y'all. We're here. I didn't even have the time to put the effort. We'll do it live. I didn't even. Yeah. So, we'll get underway shortly. Um, you know, we've had incidents happen back to back this year, and those incidents have been used, I would argue, as excuses to reinforce a very misandrous kind of anti-black man, but coded like we give a F about black men's mental health, or that we care about black men, when actually it's just to do a service for black women. We've used these incidents to reinforce old misandrist tropes about black men. And y'all will see what Mr. Z is speaking about in a minute. If you didn't click the link, I don't know why you wouldn't, because Mr. Z has had that link up for over 12 hours now, give or take, something like that. Right? So we will start off like this.
But because black men don't actually have access to the same kind of patriarchy that their white male peers do, both because of their whiteness and in some cases because of their class, patriarchy manifests itself in very localized ways, I believe, in black life. So we see violence that emerges in the domestic space. And we often are most acutely attuned to the physical violence within that context. But there's also rhetorical violence. How do we talk to the women and the children in our lives, right? The way that silence, for instance, not responding to the concerns of your partner, your wife, the person who's raising your children, that in not responding to them, you're deploying that silence as a weapon to dismiss what their concerns are. We have done a bad job, a tragic job, really, when we consider the way that we raise boys in this society, and black boys specifically in this context, where we don't teach boys how to use their words. They seem as though the only way that they can resolve conflict is through violence, right? Entity gone awry globally, right? In which the idea of negotiation is thrown out the table for violence, right? So we're seeing this at the highest levels. Of course, it's going to bubble down to the everyday lives of people who are experiencing this. But patriarchy, I think, for black men is something that is really appealing because it gives black men this some sense.
Yeah. So once again, the same old sexist, anti-black male tropes. Coming from a scholar, mind you, who studies black men, and he himself is a black man. The same old tropes of black men, black boys, black males being these barbarians, these barely intelligible barbarians who wouldn't even know how to wipe their own ass, who don't even know how to barely walk, these Neanderthals who need to be brought into civilization, not by white men necessarily, maybe not even by white women, but by black women. And of course, the black women's ally, the misandrous black man. Huh? Once again, and whenever there is an incident or a situation with a black man and a black woman, and the black woman either ends up deleted or hurt or harmed, we use that as justification on why we look at black men sideways in the black community. What does that interracial marriage rate say again for newlywed black men? Yeah. Huh? Once again, it's always this. It's always this. And this is a scholar, yo. This is an academic who studies black men, who's supposed to be supposedly an advocate, better yet, for black men. And he's using the same old black feminist tropes that we've all heard a zillion times. What's new here, anyone? Anyone and everyone. What is new here? What is he saying that we're not used to hearing? We're going to play it again and then we'll move along. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Let me press fair use because the next clips are a bit long. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. Right? Continuing.
But because black men don't actually have access to the same kind of patriarchy that their white male peers do, both because of their whiteness and in some cases because of their class, patriarchy manifests itself in very localized ways, I believe, in black life. So we see violence that emerges in the domestic space. And we often are most acutely attuned to the physical violence within that context. But there's also rhetorical violence. How do we talk to the women and the children in our lives, right? The way that silence, for instance, not responding to the concerns of your partner, your wife, the person who's raising your children, that in not responding to them, you're deploying that silence as a weapon to dismiss what their concerns are. We have done a bad job, a tragic job, really, when we consider the way that we raise boys in this society, and black boys specifically in this context, where we don't teach boys how to use their words. They seem as though the only way that they can resolve conflict is through violence, right? Entity gone awry globally, right? In which the idea of negotiation is thrown out the table for violence, right? So we're seeing this at the highest levels. Of course, it's going to bubble down to the everyday lives of people who are experiencing this. But patriarchy, I think, for black men is something that is really appealing because it gives black men this some sense.
And there you go. So the old trope of black men don't have any institutional societal power. And so because they don't have this type of power, their version of patriarchy is very hands-on, pun intended. It's violent. It's physical violence towards women and children. Because they don't have the institution. You got to understand, patriarchy for every other man on the planet is institutional. It's societal, right? It's in the home, it's out the home. It's communal. But because Black American men are the one exception on planet Earth. This is their sexist trope. They gotta push it. Black men can be the exception to the rule positively, right? So the one exception to the rule black men are in America negatively is that the way black men in America enact their patriarchy is through physical violence, don't you know? It's not that other men around the planet don't do it too, but black men in America, because they're losers, and racism and white supremacy, if we're willing to acknowledge it for this conversation, black men in America, they gotta be hands-on, they gotta be violent, they have to do black women wrong because, you know, intersectionality and whatnot in these patriarchal black men. And because they live in a white supremacist, anti-black society, they can't indulge in patriarchy the way white men play it and do it in America. And other men, other non-black men engage in this in America. Right? The same old feminist tropes. Nothing new here. Dr. Dizzle says, the dude really brought up rhetorical violence. Quote, rhetorical violence. Do you really want to go down that road? Who is more, quote, rhetorically violent than black women as a group. Bro, they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to have that conversation. No one wants to actually sit down and be like, oh crap, yeah, black women do be initiating violence. They do be initiating DV against black men. Who wants to have that conversation? Huh? Hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit better now. I know my mic was a little bit worse or bad earlier. So hopefully you guys can hear me better now. Let me get a one in the chat if my audio got a little bit better. Hopefully. But yeah, who wants to have that conversation? No one wants to have the conversation about black women and DV or same-sex loving black women and DV or black women in violence concerning children. Huh? No one wants to have that conversation. Dr. Dizzle, you're 100% right. And the rhetorical violence, oh my God. Because earlier I was speaking about physical. No one wants to have the rhetorical violence conversation and how much black women engage in that, because we're going to start hearing a bunch of excuses. People are going to start copping pleas. No, you have to understand, because black women got to use that because they're so scared of this black men and violence. And so we learn and we're taught to use our words, and because it's going to get into some real crap. How harsh and cruel black women could be with their words. How insensitive black women could be with their words. How cutting black women could be with their words. Spiteful, sexist. Hey, LGBTQ men, do you really want to have a conversation with black women about how homophobic them words be coming out their mouth? Uh-oh. Do y'all really want to have that conversation about who's the ones really saying the sexist stuff and the homophobic stuff? Uh-oh. Or y'all gonna cover for black women like y'all usually do? Come on now, LGBTQ folks, black folks. Huh? If we start getting into rhetorically violent, oh boy. Who got the platinum medal? I didn't even say gold medal. I did not even say gold medal. Who has the platinum medal? Rhetorical violence? Y'all don't want to talk. Professor, doctor, you don't want to have that conversation. Huh? Continuing, and KMS says, thank you for the super chat. KMS says, this uptick in misandrous discourse make me wish black men really believed in the force doctrine. Uh-oh. If black women really feared black men, they would be better behaved. I agree. I agree. I could go down the litany. If black women really were afraid of black men, would we have black female politicians twerking on a handstand? And I'm saying it in the more polite way. We say it a different way in the South. It's not, she wasn't just twerking on a handstand. We say it a different way in the South. Huh? If black women really feared black men, would they talk to black men both privately and publicly the way they do? Would they continue to sun black men on camera? Would they continue to be so insulting towards black men if black women were so deathly afraid of black men? I agree with you 150%, KMS. Huh? They're so scared of black men, so deathly afraid of black men. In what world? In what world? And KMS, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Huh? Continuing, let's see if we could. Oh, did I? Okay, I did. Okay, but we're still gonna continue. So we're gonna start from the beginning.
Mark Anthony Neal told me that hearing about all this violence over the course of the past few weeks had him feeling like we need to start a collective conversation. A conversation asking,
what's happening in the world. I mean, we ask that question every day
Yeah.
because there's so much craziness going on. But, this is something that, at least for me, had to bubble up to a priority in terms of thinking and processing what this violence against women mean.
Yeah. Okay. You talk about that conversation. What does that conversation look like?
I think it's important to think about your introduction of Serena Fairfax and leading with her, that we need to lead with the victims of the violence. And, there seemed to be this desire almost immediately to create a context for the violence, whether it was mental illness, dude just lost his mind for a moment. I needed to sit with the idea that in these cases, there were children that lost their lives, there were wives that lost their lives. Whatever choices Mr. Fairfax made or the guy in Louisiana made, we have to sit with the violence against those women and children first. And I think too often, because he was a prominent Black man, and we're overly protective, I think, as a community, as a culture, about what befalls prominent Black men, right? Because
Let's pause right there. We're overly concerned with what befalls prominent Black men. If that's not a straight out of radical Black feminist trope, Mr. Neal, Dr. Neal. We're not talking about our Dr. Neal. This is a different Dr. Neal. Who needs sexist Black feminist, female feminist, women feminist, when we have you? Aren't you supposed to be defending us? Oh yeah, I forgot. You don't defend Black men from accusations and critique from Black women. You actually go along with them. Trojan horse much? Huh? Who needs the racist, sexist, misandrist Black women when you have Black male scholars like this? We're overly protective of prominent Black men. Where? Like recently? Like over the past 2 decades? Where? Definitely over the past decade. Where? Where's that not Black women celebrating the downfall of Black prominent men, especially if he has the gall to be not married to a Black woman, to be married to someone who's not Black? Where they do that at? I don't know what year y'all gotta be. Y'all are so stuck in the goddamn 70s and 80s and 60s and 50s and 40s in color purple. Ooh, goddamn. We're in 2026. These folks talk like we somewhere in, I don't even know what era this is, where Black men are just coming home, your food is not on the table, and you start backhanding everybody in the house, including the dog. Black men walk in the house, they food not on the table, and everybody getting backhanded. Kids, dog, wife, mom, possibly dad if he's elderly. Everyone getting backhanded. Where they do that at? We're overly concerned with what befalls prominent Black men. Over the past couple decades, and Telescope says they act like we're all Mr. and Ike Turner, and that's all it is. Every Black man, that's what we are. We can't enact our will on non-Black folks. So for the handful of us, the two of us that have a job worth a damn, we come home. I don't know what home, because many of us are single or we're separated from the mother of our children, but okay, fine. We come home, our food isn't on the table, and we're going to punching out everybody in the house, including the dog. We're going to kicking the dog, kicking the cat. There's a pun in there. Kicking the dog, kicking the cat. You using homophobic slurs towards our sons. Insulting our daughters. and backhanding our own wives. Like this is this weird sexist crap. Black men can't be the cartoon villains for everybody in America. Goddamn. Shout out to all the white men. We're the number. Shut the hell up. I didn't even get this sentence out. White men swear they're the number one victim. Shut the hell up. Black men are the cartoon villains of this society. Just because your chick want to come over here and pipe and get piped does not mean she still think anything of us. Cartoon villains. Continuing.
Mark Anthony Neal told me that hearing about all this violence over the course of the past few weeks had him feeling like we need to start a collective conversation. A conversation asking,
what's happening in the world? I mean, we ask that question every day.
Yeah.
Because there's so much craziness going on. But, this is something that, at least for me, had to bubble up to a priority in terms of thinking and processing what this violence against women mean.
Yeah, okay. You talk about that conversation. What does that conversation look like?
I think it's important to think about your introduction of Serena Fairfax and leading with her, that we need to lead with the victims of the violence. And, there seemed to be this desire almost immediately to create a context for the violence, whether it was mental illness, dude just lost his mind for a moment. I needed to sit with the idea that in these cases, there were children that lost their lives, there were wives that lost their lives. Whatever choices Mr. Fairfax made or the guy in Louisiana made, we have to sit with the violence against those women and children first. And I think too often, because he was a prominent Black man, and we're overly protective, I think, as a community, as a culture, about what befalls prominent Black men, right? Because somehow we think that protecting and creating a context to understand them, it's more of a benefit to our community, to the race. I think in leading with that, we miss fundamental issues around violence against women, the role of patriarchy and misogyny and sexism in our lives, and how violence against Black women becomes an afterthought. I think about, for instance, in a separate space, when we see young white women who are killed by folks who are immigrants, and how that bubbles up to a national conversation because it's connected to this larger discourse about immigration in the country. We rarely see violence against Black women bubble up to that level of conversation. And so I was happy to see, and happy is probably the wrong word, the number of Black women scholars and journalists, some of them that I knew, who spoke back very forcefully to the framing of the story of these killings.
Right. I mean, you mentioned this. There's a lot of focus in these incidents around specifically the mental health of these men, sometimes more than the tragedy itself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find that to be the appropriate response to the wake of these incidents.
A man killed his wife, and I'm talking about Fairfax in this context. How do we not lead with that conversation? That a man chose to kill his wife with his children in the home. Now, we could have a conversation about whether or not I or anybody else believes that patriarchy is a...
Mark Anthony Neal told me that hearing about all this violence over the course of the past few weeks had him...
Audio issues, y'all. Audio issues. My apologies. Pressing stuff. That's what I get. That's what I get. So as y'all can hear, I'm going to play it again. I'm sorry. Torture. I know. Y'all know. On a Z stream, you could get waterboarded at any time. Shout out to Better You. You could get waterboarded at any time on a Z stream. We in the torture over here. Shout out to Charles Bentley. Shout out to Better You. We torture people over here. Audio torture. Stab your eardrums out. So it's the normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill sexist tropes. There's nothing to see here. I'm gonna play it again though. Right? And before we get underway, the Arena Revise says, and thank you for the super chat, the Arena Revise. By the way, the Arena Revise is one of my members. 23 members. We're waiting for the other two, and we will start our membership. Okay, continuing. The Arena Revise says, why didn't the conversation start with Aaliyah Henderson burying her daughters in suitcases, Cleveland, 3 months ago? Wow. So I didn't know about this until you just said it. I didn't know this was a thing. I missed that story. I missed that story. Wow. Leah Henderson bearing her daughters in suitcases in Cleveland 3 months ago. I did not know about that. I will look that up. Sounds pretty damn sad. Sounds pretty damn sad. Yes. Y'all notice there are certain stories I don't cover, like the young lady with the what, she had 4 or 5 kids and 2 of them end up freezing to death in the car last year. I didn't cover that story. I spoke about it on the Roger Report's channel. Shout out to the Roger Report. I didn't cover that story. Can't do it. Can't do it. Nope. Huh? Too sad. Right? So the Arena Revised, I'll check it out. I'll check it out. And he says, okay. And then the Arena Revised says Dr. T covered it. Okay, I'll check it out. Right, I missed that. Okay. All right, continuing. Thank you, the Arena Revised. Talk about turning something we over here waterboarding. The Arena Revised says can we add electricity to that? Can Mr. Z get the term out? Here we go. All right, continuing. Let's see if we can get this, play this all the way out without Mr. Z's commentary so that we don't have to restart. And my apologies for all of you that wonder why. And I'm going to start doing the audio more, because at least with audio, you can pause it throughout and don't have to restart. For the clips that I played, this is StreamYard. StreamYard does not allow for you to pause the video mid-video, right? So my apologies for the production. Once StreamYard allows for you to pause the video mid-video, we will do that, right? But if I want to give commentary on something, we got to stop it and then play it all over again. So for those of you that don't know, that's why it goes this way. Yeah, Z, but I see people stream the video. They're streaming from YouTube. It's different. They're using their laptop or computer. You learn something new every day. Okay. All right, everyone. Continuing.
Mark Anthony Neal told me that hearing about all this violence over the course of the past few weeks had him feeling like we need to start a collective conversation. A conversation asking,
what's happening in the world? I mean, we ask that question every day.
Yeah.
Because there's so much craziness going on. But, this is something that, at least for me, had to bubble up to a priority in terms of thinking and processing what this violence against women mean.
Yeah, okay. You talk about that conversation. What does that conversation look like?
I think it's important to think about your introduction of Serena Fairfax and leading with her, that we need to lead with the victims of the violence. And, there seemed to be this desire almost immediately to create a context for the violence, whether it was mental illness, dude just lost his mind for a moment. I needed to sit with the idea that in these cases, there were children that lost their lives, there were wives that lost their lives. Whatever choices Mr. Fairfax made or the guy in Louisiana made, we have to sit with the violence against those women and children first. And I think too often, because he was a prominent Black man, and we're overly protective, I think, as a community, as a culture, about what befalls prominent Black men, right? Because somehow we think that protecting and creating a context to understand them, it's more of a benefit to our community, to the race. I think in leading with that, we miss fundamental issues around violence against women, the role of patriarchy and misogyny and sexism in our lives, and how violence against Black women becomes an afterthought. I think about, for instance, in a separate space, when we see young white women who were killed by folks who are immigrants, and how that bubbles up to a national conversation because it's connected to this larger discourse about immigration in the country. We rarely see violence against Black women bubble up to that level of conversation. And so I was happy to see, and happy is probably the wrong word, the number of Black women scholars and journalists, some of them that I knew, who spoke back very forcefully to the framing of the story of these killings.
Right. I mean, you mentioned this. There's a lot of focus in these incidents around specifically the mental health of these men, sometimes more than the tragedy itself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find that to be the appropriate response to the wake of these incidents.
A man killed his wife, and I'm talking about Fairfax in this context. How do we not lead with that conversation? That a man chose to kill his wife with his children in the home. Now, we could have a conversation about whether or not I or anybody else believes that patriarchy is a form of mental illness. if we want to have a conversation about mental illness,
y'all heard right. Patriarchy is a form of mental illness.
Mental illness and
Yeah,
misogyny and
yeah.
sexism. We often talk about the ways in which racism, for instance, is a public health crisis, right? Anti-Black racism is a public health crisis, right? When do we talk about violence against women and misogyny and patriarchy as a mental health crisis also? And I'm not necessarily trying to go there, right? I'm just saying for those folks who want to say, well, he snapped. But there also had to be something fundamentally in how these men viewed the women in their lives and the children in their lives.
Yeah.
And this is the point that Brittany Cooper made in her great piece.
Yeah.
That there's a sense of ownership. I can do with you what I will.
Brittany Cooper is
In many ways,
Professor
the way that
Crunk,
story gets reported,
the
we
heavy
are
set
more
one.
mournful of the possibilities that are lost for these men, whether it's their own life or incarceration, right? We're more concerned with mourning them than we are mourning the victims of the choices that they make, right? And they were choices, right? They made clear-cut choices to kill people who ostensibly are close and special to them.
Now, can we talk about that for a second? The article you're referring to is by Brittany Cooper. She's a journalist and a professor of Africana Studies and Gender Studies at Rutgers University. And she wrote a piece for New York Magazine.
That was the one that blamed racism for her weight.
And not just mental health issues that was responsible for the killing that happened in Shreveport. Do you find that fair or unfair to paint these incidents with a larger brush and condemn them as part of patriarchy more broadly?
It's a long, difficult conversation in the sense that we'd like to believe that the behavior, the misbehavior, the bad behavior, the deadly behavior of Black men is some sort of byproduct of what Black men experience in a racist society, where they are unfairly targeted both because they are Black, but also because they are Black men. And I think we've excused a lot of behavior in our community because of that reality. And that's not to detract from the ways in which
no intersectionality for Black men,
for lack of a better way to describe it. But because Black men don't actually have access to the same kind of patriarchy that their white male peers do, both because of their whiteness and in some cases because of their class, patriarchy manifests itself in very localized ways, I believe, in Black life. So we see violence that emerges in the domestic space. And we often are most acutely attuned to the physical violence within that context. But there's also rhetorical violence. How do we talk to the women and the children in our lives, right? The way that silence, for instance, not responding to the concerns of your partner, your wife, the person who's raising your children, that in not responding to them, you're deploying that silence as a weapon to dismiss what their concerns are. We have done a bad job, a tragic job, really, when we consider the way that we raise boys in this society and Black boys specifically in this context, where we don't teach boys how to use their words. They seem as though the only way that they can resolve conflict is through violence, right? And it had gone awry globally, right? In which the idea of negotiation.
We're Neanderthals.
Violence, right? So we're seeing this at the highest levels. Of course, it's going to bubble down to the everyday lives of people who are experiencing this. But patriarchy, I think, for Black men is something that is really appealing because it gives Black men this some sense. And I will own this for myself at the various times in my life where I understood the privilege of patriarchy, that it gives us some semblance of power. But it's not a real power, right? It's not a real power if ultimately it's being used to destroy those in our lives, to destroy our communities.
What communities, when the interracial marriage rate is increasing for the Black men that are getting married? What community? Black men said, yeah, if we got to bow to Black women, ain't no community. Y'all could do y'all LGBTQ and baby mama stuff over there in the corner. Z, we're not asking for you to bow. We're just asking for egalitarian community. Yawn. Huh? 25% of newlywed Black men marrying out. So this is what intellectualizing misandry. Y'all have heard Mr. Z use that phrase before. This is what it sounds like. Now you know. And remember, this is a Black man. Oh, wait for it, with 2 daughters. We know Black men with 2 daughters. They don't sound nothing like this. I guess because they're not in the business of kissing ass. Anyway, and using old, tired tropes of essentially Black men would rather be on the corner drinking a 40, not a 40, drinking a 40, than going to get some type of mental health work done. Yawn. I had to play these clips so y'all can hear it for yourself, so that you guys can hear it for yourself. This is the type of discourse they're having on NPR about black men. One black man violates, it's a time to indict all black men, because that's what we do in America, including in the black community. Ain't that right, Clay Thompson? Oop. And he didn't even violate. He just made sure he could exercise his options. They was like, that sounds like a violation. Huh? His mama black. Up. Actually, his mama not black. Y'all still treating him like she is, though. Oops. Huh? Yeah. So let me knock out some of you guys' super chats, and then we'll continue. And GC says, gain muscle. GC says, haven't donated in a minute. Well, thank you, sir. You are a scholar and a gentleman. And thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Right? Just randomly saying, you know what happened? Drop some money in the collection plate in a little while. Z, I got you. And thank you for the $5. Let's read this from Eric Denman and KMS. I did not forget about your $10 super chat earlier, so I'm going to read that in a minute, and then I'll read the other one. And Eric Denman says, bruh, I am so tired of any ninja is all trope and all ninjas trope. Let's read that again. Eric Denman says, bruh, and thank you for the super chat. Bruh, I am tired of any ninja is all ninja trope. Yes, any Negro is all Negro's trope. Yeah, one Negro violate, one Negro slights a black woman. Let's say legitimately. Let's say we can't even make no excuses for it. And it's all of us. And it's just a way to continue to say, look, see, this is why I don't trust black men. And this is why I think black women should run the black community. And this is why I'm telling you, we need to flip this into gynocracy. They're not saying that, but they are saying that. We need to flip this into matriarchy. Now, some of them are saying that very overtly. Huh? It's moral compass, moral high ground crap. It's look at what they do to us with their power. What power? Huh? It's moral compass and moral high grounding crap, bro. And that's all it is. You have a man with a issue. He went, deleted kids and his wife or whatever, his lady. Okay, cool. Then you have the politician who deleted the wife. Apparently he was going through it. He was losing everything anyway. And we all know that a lot of those ladder climbing ass women, ooh, you're not supposed to say this, Z, not this early. I'm going to say it. A lot of these ladder climbing ass women, you know, the second it looked like you're about to lose a goddamn penny, I didn't even say $1. She leave it out the door with all the money. If you going through it, she ain't going through it with you. It said till death do us part. She was like, yeah, check, please. Huh? The Bible said for richer or for poorer. That's what the Bible said. She said, yeah, about that. See, that poorer part, that struggle part, yeah, that's not like struggle love. I don't do struggle love. I'm out the door. Skirt. Huh? I just want somebody to tell Z that he's wrong. What does divorce numbers say? Oops. Who's filing for divorce at 70%? Yikes. What's the number reason for divorce in America? Oh. The women said, yeah, for richer or for poorer. About that poorer part, can we get that like amended? and on the part where we're getting it amended, can we also make sure that we say any struggle at all? Not even just the money, like anything that's not like edifying me all the time, kissing my ass, all the time. Yeah, I'm out the door. I'm out the door. So going to what Eric Denman said, once again, bro, I'm so tired of any ninja is all ninja trope. It's moral high grounding, bro. Moral high grounding and justification for these ladies to say out loud what they've been saying out loud. It's more reason for them to do the black men ain't ish, black men are violent, pseudo patriarchal black men, wannabe patriarchal black men, enacting their will on innocent little hapless black women. Yawn. See, you don't sound like you got no energy. I do. But we got to sound like this when we talk about this part of the conversation because it's so old and tired and inaccurate. But who said the narrative had to include accuracy? Mr. Denman, thank you for the super chat. Once again, thank you for the super chat. Continuing. All right, let's read KMS super chat from earlier. And KMS says, if I can get to it, there we go. KMS says, and thank you for the super chat. I'm so sick and tired of hearing from a group of women who can't wait to get into a ninja's face, a Negro's face, lament how fear for their lives. Yeah, exactly. As if the most dangerous place for black children or a black child is not with the mother. I get what you're saying, but yeah, no, we appreciate this. And actually, the most dangerous part for a black child is in the black woman's womb, but we gonna leave that one alone. We'll just say that the children are here. Yeah, look, women are the primary caretakers of children, and they're the primary harmers of children. Oh, whether we're speaking about sexually, shout out to all those teachers. Whether we're talking about violence in the home, shout out to the mothers, the aunties and the grandmas. Huh? Yeah. Like, this is a known fact. This is not even up for speculation. If y'all want to talk about violence and domestic violence, god damn, I said it. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. There's a reason why we say DV, y'all, because YouTube be on us. Anyway, this is a known fact. It's not even up for debate on who's deleting the kids. Who's harming the children? Yes, you're going to hear these one-off stories of a man who he couldn't get the wife back, and so he delete the kid. Yeah, that happens. Yes, you hear it once in a blue moon. But no, who's harming the kids? The women. And if you want to throw parental alienation in there too, the women. Primarily 70, 80% women. Not even 51%. No, 70, 80% women. If y'all go and talk about DV, let's talk about DV. Who's really deleting the children? If y'all want to talk about trauma, ooh. Mr. Neil, Dr. Neil, better yet, if you really want to have a conversation about rhetorical violence, I mean, how many adults do we have who are still traumatized by what mama them said 20, 30, 40 years ago? 50 years ago? Oops. And I'm talking about traumatized women and men and women from what their black mama said to them 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, yesterday. So KMS, it goes further than and like you said, as if the most dangerous place for a black child isn't with their mother. Yeah, look, we're not all perfect. We done said or did some things around children that maybe that child shouldn't have been privy to or had experienced. True indeed. But if we're going to have a conversation about DV and about air quotes rhetorical violence, do y'all really want to have that conversation? No. But do y'all really want to have that conversation, or y'all just using this as another way to beat up on black men for the 1 zillionth time in American history? And KMS, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Continuing. All right. Read that from the Reader Buzz earlier. And KMS says again, and thank you for the super chat. KMS says, Black women make up 13% of the female population, but make up 33% of the annual quote unquote fetus deletus. Hysterical. Not making a moral argument, but hashtag who dare, what was I saying? Who are the real killers? Oh man. Okay, I gotta do it. I gotta use the Corey Holcomb joke. Corey Holcomb said, shout out to Corey Holcomb. Corey Holcomb said he was messing with a chick. It's one of his stand-ups. He was messing with a chick and he got a prego. And she was like, just drop me off at the clinic, give me the money, whatever. And he did the thing, and then he went to go pick her up after the case, and they driving in the car, and he listening to 50 Cent, and 50, with all the violence and stuff, and she said, I don't want to hear all that violence in the car. And he was like, Yitch, you're the only killer in the car. Hysterical. Mr. Z can't do it like a comedian could do it clearly, but hysterical. So reading that from KMS, that hashtag who the real killers. Yitch, you're the only killer in the car. Exactly. KMS reiterates, who's the real killers? Who the real killers? Yitch, you're the only killer in the car. You hear me? Huh? It's a real thing, and it's not. I'm joking, but it's not necessarily even poke fun of or make fun of the ladies. But if we're gonna speak about DV, we're putting all the onus on Black men, because everything concerning what ails the Black community always get drops on the feet of Black men. Black women like to play like, oh, it's always us. Cut the crap. Cut it. It's at the feet of Black men, because we don't blame Earth Mother Goddess Black women for anything. We don't critique any type of behavior, especially not the scholars. Black scholars, where's the critique for Black women? Wait, we don't got any, because intersectionality informs us that Black women don't misbehave. And if they do, then we include the environment and stuff. And even this is a Black man telling you, like, we might be doing a little bit of too much talk about the environment and about this and that when it concerning Black men. But that's all we do for Black women if we ever grow a pair and critique their behavior, their misbehavior. If we ever grow a pair. Song on the if. Huh? Fetus delete us like a mug, KMS. And let's read this one. Oh no, I read that from GC earlier. I'll read this from KMS, and then we will continue. And KMS says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. KMS says, I give every woman one American Psycho moment. She genuinely didn't know what dude was on. In 99% of cases, not only do they know, they seek it out. Look, KMS, man. Look. Man, it is that. If you know, you know. It is that. It is that. I had a conversation with a homeboy earlier today. With a friend earlier today. The ladies knowingly are going into toxic situations. Knowingly. Z, you still not saying the right word. Enthusiastically. Ooh. They are enthusiastically, knowingly going into, knowingly getting airdropped into a goddamn volcano. Knowingly, enthusiastically. Mama telling them, look, I done did it before, I wouldn't suggest it.
Pops telling them, look, I've been that person. I've been the volcano. I don't suggest you do it. Older brother telling them, I don't think you should do that. Older sister telling them, look, I've been there. I wouldn't pull that if I was you. Even the homegirl that encouraged them to walk through the pits of hell and telling them, I don't think you should do that. And they do it anyway. End up in a messed up situation. They end up getting knocked up. They keep the baby. They end up in messed up situation. They almost get deleted. Sometimes they do get deleted. Huh? Then they mad at the world. They come up with all type of weird ass excuses on why they did what they did. Why they're messing with this dude. Huh? KMS, you said something once. Just be there. You'll be surprised how many dudes that came up on some vagina and a whole relationship for years just because he was there. Not necessarily good looking, not necessarily got money like that, not even necessarily charismatic. Although that all of those things help. They definitely help. Definitely. But just because he was there. But women didn't give dudes vagina just because he was there. And she wasn't disgusted. If you're not disgusting to her and you're there. Huh? Man. Yeah, I played it already. I played it, Jamar. And Jamar says, did you hear about what the LGBTQ blogger Funky Deneva said about straight black men? Yeah, I saw it. I played it yesterday. Yesterday? Was it yesterday or the day before? Yeah, I played it on my channel already. Yep, I saw it. All right. If I'm not mistaken, unfortunately, and I'm sorry to do this to you guys for the rest of the country, I think Funky Deneva is from down here in South Florida. My apologies, everyone. My apologies that we are exporting out the Funky Denevas, right, and the Saucy Santanas of the world. I don't know where Saucy Santana is from, though. Yeah, but I'm last time I checked, he was still living in South Florida. I'm not 100% sure. But I apologize to the rest of the country for the Funky Denevas of the world. Oh, boy. Maybe that shouldn't be the term I use. Oh, gosh, there we go. Maybe oh, boy isn't the term you should be using right now, Z. Not especially for what you're talking about. True indeed, funny, continuing. Pun not intended. Huh? Anyway, continuing. We're going to do the fair use again before NPR strike me. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. And remember, everyone, this is NPR, and this is a whole professor. Continuing.
How are you able to reconcile the call for strides and help for Black men with mental health conditions while also acknowledging the toll on Black women and children?
It can't be an either or.
Yeah.
We have raised emotionally stunted Black men and boys. And stunted is probably not the right word. We give Black men and boys only certain outlets for their emotions. So anger is acceptable.
Wait for it. We're going to play that again. We're going to play that again because by whose measuring stick? Pause. Continuing.
How are you able to reconcile the call for strides and help for Black men with mental health conditions while also acknowledging the toll on Black women and children?
It can't be an either or.
Yeah.
We have raised emotionally stunted Black men and boys.
We have raised emotionally stunted Black men and boys. Who's more on antidepressant, Black men or Black women? I know we got ADHD Black men and boys out the yin yang. Shout out to Dr. Umar Johnson. We know a lot of that is overly prescribing these type of things to Black boys and men. With that, who's more on antidepressants, Black men or Black women? Or is it that Black men are just not being diagnosed with depression? Is that the excuse? Emotionally stunted Black men. Why? Because we're not emoting like women? Because we don't see therapy as a religion? Because we're not kissing the women's ass? Because we're not going along with the misandry? Because an increasing amount of us are saying, yeah, about that black gynocracy again. Yeah, I'm going to make my exit. Emotionally stunted black men. Why? Because an increasing amount of black men are marrying outside the black race? What exactly is making black men emotionally stunted? What would you say that entails, being emotionally stunted as a black man? What is that? What the hell is even that? As the white man said on that clip. Emotionally stunted black men. Hey, say that. And Neon One says, and who raised them? Perfectly well-adjusted black women. Perfectly well-adjusted black women. That's who raised them. We don't know what. Apparently, black boys are cute and cuddly. They're never cute and cuddly. They're cute and cuddly until they're like 5. Then they're little terrors until they're like 12 and 13. Then they're unbearable. And then when they're 18, they're whole monsters. Apparently, that's how it goes. Huh? Yeah, so I saw the clip. I clicked on the clip. It's in my Instagram history. I will go back and watch it. There we go. And Detroit says, and thank you for the super chat. Meanwhile, Meg the Monster, hysterical. Meg the Monster fans are sending death threats towards Lexi Brown for dating Klay Thompson. Isn't that another black woman? I'm just saying. Anyway, I guess this is what happens when you destroy black women's Sierra prayer fantasies. When you destroy black women's Sierra prayer fantasies, they go to targeting and victimizing whoever the hell you're with, including another black woman. I thought these women were supposed to care about black women. So because Meg Thee Stallion can't live out her Sierra prayer fantasy and clean up her image because black men don't care about what y'all talking about, because Meg Thee Stallion don't get to sell off in the sunset with Klay Thompson, we're going to start targeting another black woman with death threats? Yeah. Remember, everyone, black women care about other black women. The more you know, Rainbow pops up. Huh? They don't get to live vicariously through Meg Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson. And I did not watch BGS coverage of this. All I saw was the title, and he said class, like I said the other day. Huh? Shout out to BGS. I know he's going to do a masterful job. Or better yet, I'm speaking about it wrong. I have the tenses all wrong, the tense wrong. I know he did a masterful job. There you go, Z. We do got to you in the comments. So yeah, Detroit, I'm not surprised. It's in my Instagram history. I'll get to it. We might cover it. Right. And thank you for the super chat, Detroit. Thank you for the super chat. Right. And I know I gotta read some more. And was it Turkish Tyrone says, anti-black men, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Anti-black men, misandrist contradiction. Black men are dangerous patriarchs to the black demo, yet we are weak, same-sex loving, Absentee, um, absentee who love white women. True. Feel free to add more, bros. Yeah. So I did a stream. Ooh, was that 2025 or was that 2024? Where I was going through the contradictions and it was a mug because we're violent to women, to black women, yet we're not around. So I don't know how you're violent to black women when you are chasing after white women. We objectify black women, but yet we're chasing after white women. That doesn't make any sense, right? We are harmful to black children, yet we're creating a whole lot of mixed black children, and not enough white women are complaining about it. Okay, right? We're violent to black women, yet we don't live in the homes with them to be violent enough with them. Okay. We're colorist, featurist, texturist towards black women, yet we're marrying and ending up with non-black women. Insignificant number. Yeah. We're dusty losers with no money, no career, no tact, no class, no nothing. Yet you got Meg Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson. And we're dusty losers with no class, no tact, no white collar careers, no vocabulary worth a damn, no diction, no nothing. Yet, for those of us that do have it, we're chasing after non-black women, namely white women. By the way, Mr. Z is just freestyling right now. You see how we could just rattle off the contradictions? Huh? We're dusty losers that nobody that's not a black woman wants, yet somehow we have a higher interracial marriage rate than black women do. But it's only because black women are far more loyal to black men than black men are to black women. It has nothing to do with how anti-blackness affects black women in the dating scene and how they can't move the way we move. Like, an attractive black woman is an attractive black woman, but this is an anti-black society. Is that white man going to be able to bring you home and marry you? Or is his mama and his daddy and his granddad and his grandma going to be like, oh, we're writing you out the will? Huh? Like the contradictions, like I can just rattle them off. I'm doing it. We're dusty losers who no one wants, yet somehow, once again, the interracial marriage rate for black men is higher than the interracial marriage rate for black women. And instead of black women doing the things to keep black men, they would rather engage in same-sex loving relationship. Ooh, goddamn, Z. Check that same-sex loving relationship rate. Goddamn. Mr. Z over here getting tongue-tied. Pause. Black women are the most same-sex loving group in America. Just saying. Some of that is because black women outnumber black men, but a lot of that is because y'all don't want to get on the black man's program, and them non-black men are not checking in any real numbers. So guess what that means for you? Ooh. Thank you for the super chat, Turkish Tyrone. Thank you for the super chat. Huh? I gotta read this one now. And thank you for the super chat, Blue Sox. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And Blue Sox is just tuning in, Z. You gave this stream a 12-hour marinate. Oh man! Shout out to Blue Sox. Blue Sox has been up on the stream a couple times, and Blue Sox sends the emails occasionally of what he's cooking. Blue Sox is a real chef, y'all. He really be cooking out here. Blue Sox really be getting down in the kitchen. Hey, don't send your chick to have a cook-off against Blue Sox. He might win. He probably gonna win. Right? Shout out to Blue Sox. And thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. And yeah, look, life was life, and y'all already know. I attempted to make it a reckless streams. I could not make it a reckless streams today, y'all. So, but we still got 73 in the box. By the way, like, share, subscribe. I'm gonna check those likes in a minute. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Right. So let's make sure we didn't miss. Yeah, I'm still missing some super chats I need to read, but let's try to see if we could continue with this, and then we'll read the rest of those super chats and get underway. We still got this stream. I ain't trying to make it a 3-hour stream, right? I ain't gonna fall asleep on Z, but we still got a little ways to go, right? So continuing.
How are you able to reconcile the call for strides and help for Black men with mental health conditions while also acknowledging the toll on Black women and children?
It can't be an either or.
Yeah.
We have raised emotionally stunted Black men and boys. And stunted is probably not the right word. We give Black men and boys only certain outlets for their emotions. So anger is acceptable. Certain forms of frustration are acceptable. So many other forms of emotions that come from Black men and boys, we police. To be a Black man and to be vulnerable is to be questioned about the validity of your masculinity. To be a Black man who leads with caregiving, as opposed to the more patriarchal role of controlling and caretaking, right? Providing sustenance and family and housing and food and shelter, all those kinds of things that we think of as the responsibility of men. We don't give Black men many, many diverse outlets to express their emotions. And that is both what leads, I would say, in some cases, not all cases, obviously, and I'm not a mental health expert, but if you are a human being who can't fully express what your emotions are, that speaks some troubling of your mental health. And, we can't necessarily say to Black men, well, you need to go to therapy. I'm thinking about my man, Siari the Kid, who has this great song, right? Do Black men need therapy? Yes. But not every Black man or Black boy is in a position to get therapy. And to admit that you're in therapy.
Look, I couldn't do it. I can't. I'm gonna play it. We gonna get right back to it. There's a larger conversation to be had here, both on the left and the right. Who the hell are these Black people that get to talk? Is it just you get to talk when you reinforce whatever negative stereotype that we already have about Black people in general and about Black men specifically? Because when you're listening to Dr. Neil speak on NPR, what is he saying that's not a feminist trope about Black men? What is he saying? That's a real question. Dr. Neil, if you ever come upon this, not Dr. Ronald Neil, but the other Dr. Neil. Dr. Neil, what are you saying that's anything new or different, or that your random feminist, namely your random Black feminist, doesn't say about Black men? Like, what are you saying? As I said before, and the Black community needs to be a real conversation about who the hell gets to talk and why. Continuing.
How are you able to reconcile the call for strides and help for Black men with mental health conditions while also acknowledging the toll on Black women and children?
It can't be an either or.
Yeah.
We have raised emotionally stunted Black men and boys. And stunted is probably not the right word. We give Black men and boys only certain outlets for their emotions. So anger is acceptable. Certain forms of frustration are acceptable. So many other forms of emotions that come from Black men and boys, we police. To be a Black man and to be vulnerable is to be questioned about the validity of your masculinity. To be a Black man who leads with caregiving, as opposed to the more patriarchal role of controlling and caretaking, right? Providing sustenance and family and housing and food and shelter, all those kinds of things that we think of as the responsibility of men. We don't give Black men many, many diverse outlets to express their emotions. And that is both what leads, I would say, in some cases, not all cases, obviously, and I'm not a mental health expert,
Mhm.
but if you are a human being who can't fully express what your emotions are, that speaks some troubling of your mental health. And, we can't necessarily say to Black men, well, you need to go to therapy.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about my man, Ciari the Kid, who has this great song, right? Do Black men need therapy? Yes.
Mhm.
But not every Black man or Black boy is in a position to get therapy. And to admit that you're in therapy is somehow to admit that there's something wrong with you,
Mhm.
that there's something at fault with you. We need to change the framing so that we think about mental health care on any level as something that not only repairs us, because that is part of the problem, but also something that allows us to be the fullest human that we can be. Very often it's the pastor or the religious practice that takes the place of therapy. And spirituality is an important part of our lives, but let's not mistake spirituality for the expertise that therapy can provide, right? So that's
Yeah.
one side of the question. Not every Black man who is suffering from mental health chooses violence against women as an option, right? Some
Mhm.
of these men are in their full right mind who believe that they're
Listen
within
to
their
this
right to
framing.
treat
What the
women
hell?
and those less powerful than them as they choose. And so I think we have to hold both of these things together, right? So much of my work over the years has been working at this intersection of understanding the lives of Black men and what Black men face, but at the same time holding Black men accountable for their behaviors, right? Both to each
Mhm.
other, but also to the women and children, intimate partners that are in their lives. And I don't think it's ever an either or. It's always a both and.
Yeah. I'm thinking about this because I don't know, this might be a bit of like an overshare, but like I grew up, my mother was a social worker for child protection services, and my stepmother was the head of a safe house for abuse survivors. And I've listened to a lot of testimonials from Black women um, who were trying to survive really impossible situations and being told to kind of take it in stride. I think reactions to this violence sometimes seem to fall into that dynamic of focusing on the individual man in question without looking at the maybe the deeper power imbalances that exist and allow so many women and children in these situations. Like, what's your take on that?
When we see some of the most recent expressions of violence against Black women, it's not brand new.
Mhm.
There have always been these incidences. We are perhaps just more hyper aware of it because of news coverage and the internet and social media and all those kinds of things. But I also think there was a regularized practice in Black communities not to air dirty laundry.
Yeah.
And this was particularly important during the era of segregation, where, much of the argument about our demands to be more integrated into the mainstream of American life was that saying to white folks, we're just like you, that we're normal, right? It turns out we're more like them than we ever wanted to admit, but that's another conversation. And so we didn't want to pay attention to aspects of our lives that seemed pathological. That in fact, if there was intimate partner violence in our homes, so because we didn't want it to become something that was known outside of our homes, outside of our communities, it's something that we very often remain silent about, right? And
Hmm.
the people who most often bore the brunt of that silence were Black women and children. Children, because not only were they sometimes subject to violence, but they had to witness the violence against their mother, their grandmothers, their aunties, their sisters, et cetera, et cetera. And in this context, we're obviously talking about deadly violence, but that's also inclusive of rape and sexual violence within that context also.
Hmm.
And so I think what we have seen over the last 20 years or so is more of a willingness to have conversations about how this is impacting our communities. And so I think the discourse, despite the fact that it occurs under very tragic and sad situations as it has recently, it's an important discourse for us to have collective conversations about what does it mean for all of us to be safe in our own homes, to be safe around our partners, for our children to be safe within that context.
Y'all know actually what you want, or better yet, what the ladies would like is for them to dictate to Black men what Black men role will be, walking wallets and overglorified guard dogs. And that's the air quotes conversation. Huh? Dr. Neil, do you not really appreciate, maybe you have two daughters? And so it's skewed what the hell is actually going on out here. I always wonder this. And shout out to all of the academics and those of you who are doing pretty well in life financially and you done moved out in the burbs. I often wonder, are y'all living in an alternate universe? Especially you scholars. Because I know y'all on the internet, y'all watching stuff on the internet. Do y'all not watch Pop the Balloon? Do you not watch like black women talk on those men on the street interviews? Y'all don't see that? Y'all critiqued Kevin Samuels. Y'all never watched any Kevin Samuels videos? So y'all never saw the women talking crazy about men? Oh, you just don't say anything about that part of the conversation. Oh, okay. Because these type of conversations, they speak as if men are saying to other men, you have to be these stoic, like non-emotional, indifferent beings. For who though? Ooh, goddamn. And you're going to have to prepare yourself to be a protector or provider, or at least provide as much as you humanly can. For who? For family. Family including who? Uh-oh. Maybe a woman? You mean the same woman that's going to hold me to those standards? You mean the same woman that probably going to leave me because of those standards? Uh-oh. We're speaking as if men are just saying this to other men, and it's not being enforced, or better yet, reinforced. It's not being reinforced. Patriarchy and all of these ideas of men and this strong and this stoic and as if it's not being reinforced by, wait for it, the women. Huh? Good point, Detroit. And Detroit says women and children is family according to black women. Say that. The man is optional. How's those black families going again? Oh, wait, well, skirt, wait a minute. Okay, yeah. You ain't have to do them like that, Z. I know. Huh? We have a lot of well-adjusted children and adults in the black community, right? Wait a minute. Yeah. That came from single mothers. Yep. Upwardly mobile and well-adjusted and great, important members of society, don't we? Yeah. Yep. That part. Yeah. Huh? Yikes. Now, let's read this from a split gym. And a split gym says, with a big old 20, and a split gym says, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And a split gym says, they have to categorize us as defective humans by nature. So I think you meant to say they. So they can be absolved. Yeah, so they can be absolved of their poor child rearing and not treating us as humans. I get what you're saying. Yes. They get to be lazy. They get to not be truly involved and hands-on with their kids, with the boys. They get to not really appreciate the difference between being a black girl and a black boy and how that black boy is perceived once he's like 7, 6, maybe 5. When he's no longer cute and cuddly. 4? And how the world treats him compared to a black girl. And so instead of critiquing intersectionality and how it's been used as a weapon against black boys and men, anyway, instead of having a real conversation about how intersectionality doesn't, as FD said, I'll give FD that, having a real conversation about how intersectionality does not go far enough pertaining to black men and boys, because it actually is used to really benign neglect their plights. Continuing, instead of us having a real conversation, or at least the black women having a real conversation, or black feminists having a real conversation, what's the difference? Anyway, Instead of us having a real conversation about that and fixing it, as a split gem says, we would just rather see black boys and men as inherently defective, huh? Instead of addressing poor child rearing. Huh? Can't do that. Too much work. A split gym, too much work. Way too much work. Way too a split gym, you're doing too much. Way too much work. Nope, nope, they can't do it. Nope. Can't do it. Nope. Huh? It's just the problem is that black men are pathological and they're angry at the world because they don't get to be white elite men. So they come back to the black community and rain terror on the black community, even though a good 25% of them are marrying out. For those of them that are married, right? So instead of us addressing how a matriarchy, if you want to be kind, a gynocracy, if you want to be accurate, and the way it uses and discards black men and boys, along with living in a neo-colonial settler state white supremacist country, and how that affects black men and boys. Instead of us having a conversation about that, we have conversations about how black men need to show up for black women. And quite frankly, that's exactly what Dr. Neal was actually talking about. It's not really actually about black men and their potential health, mental health issues. This is really another one of these, how black men aren't showing up for black women and how black men are violent towards black women and how black men are threats to black women. Black women's number one threat, black men. That's actually what we're covering here. And Split Jim, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Huh? And let's read this. Y'all gives you a second. Let's read this from KMS. And KMS says, in the land of the egalitarianism, it would behoove one to treat every yitch as if she knows exactly what she's doing. Yeah. Screw-ish or no? Yeah. I would agree with you, KMS. If you know, you know. KMS knows. KMS is privy. If you know, you know. I would agree. I would definitely agree. Women, black women, are adults, 18 and over, adult, right? Oh, but the brainstem hasn't developed until 25. Okay, fine. 25 and older, adult. I agree with KMS. It would behoove you, black men, in your own sanity and wallet and safety to treat every black woman and woman, quite frankly, like she know exactly what she doing. Huh? She knows exactly what she's doing. And if you move differently, well, good luck. Dear black man, good luck. Think she naive if you want to, good luck. Huh? Right? And KMS, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. And Telescope says, I had a chick throw a glass of water in my face once. I moved out the next day. She was Latin and white, and I didn't want LAPD get in my situationship. Telescope says, she threw water in my face, and I was like, I don't want to be county bound. Telescope said, look, I was not trying to be county bound. Right. Sir, the last time we heard from her, your neighbors said y'all got into an argument the last time they heard from her. I hear you, Telescope. I hear you. Hey, KMS, this is a question of all questions. And this is what make people start getting squeamish in their seat. They start moving and shuffling in their seat. Huh? Because all those good guy tropes, all that emotionally intelligent crap, I think you have to have some EQ. This is true. You do have to have some EQ to pull the women. As a matter of fact, you really have to be really good at that. But this makes people start getting squeamish because we don't want to actually be honest about how dark triad traits in men turn women on. Oops. And how many of your girls, including your good girls, are going? Z, are you ever going to read the super chat? And thank you for the super chat, KMS. And KMS says, only question, who these 304 choosing though? With the shrug shoulders. I'm just saying. Said that KMS, we're going to read it again. And KMS says, only question, who the 304 is choosing? Say that. Hey, if we're going to be honest, huh? If we're going to be honest, I got you, KMS. I ain't missing. That's the real question. That's when people start getting squeamish. Because we know the answer to that. By the way, the ladies will eventually probably end up with the good guy. After high mileage with all the wrong ones. Oops. Z, you said that wrong. You said that wrong. It's not the wrong one. You said that wrong. She knew what he was when she met him. She knew what it was when she met him. He's not the wrong one. He's the right one for the time being. Ooh, goddamn. Huh? And KMS says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. I've known some cruel, mean, vicious men in my life growing up that had a boatload of problems, none of which was getting and maintaining the company of women. Hashtag just saying. Say that. The quiet part out loud is that the ladies are going, and it don't matter how toxic you are, whatever she feed herself, whatever her mind and her emotions tell her, her feelings tell her, she going. So being a toxic man doesn't stop nothing. Being cruel, mean, vicious, that's not stopping anything. It's not. Them 304s are still lined up to give Elon Musk a kid. Oops. Huh? How many baby mamas does Future have again? Yikes. Those 3 guys out of Tennessee that had how many children? How many of those women knew about them because they were already on news? They had already been covered, and every time you saw them, they had more children, more baby mamas. They covered, one of them was the children were only getting like $1 something, or the mothers were only getting like $1 something per child. It stopped nothing. Huh? Being cruel, being mean, being vicious ain't never stop you from getting vagina. And I'm talking about prime USDA good vagina too. Good grade of vagina. Huh? KMS say that. And KMS says Chris Brown stay with sold out shows. Huh? Not stopping nothing. It's not stopping anything. So once again, KMS, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see if we can continue.
So, in that regard, do these killings feel like they're one-off incidents, or is this a persistent issue to call attention to?
So now you're asking the question.
Oh.
I think many would like to believe that it's one-off,
Hmm.
that it's an aberration. But violence against women across the racial spectrum suggests that it's not an aberration, that it's normative.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand those folks who are cautious of demanding too much accountability to men who are accused, whether it's this man in Louisiana who we did not know,
Mm-hmm.
or it's Justin Fairfax, or if it's the more famous version of this narrative that has played out over the last 20 years, the Cosby, the Combs, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
There is this desire that we don't want to make the point that there's something so wrong with Black men that somehow the violence that they enact towards Black women makes them an outlier. Doesn't make them an outlier, right? It makes them normative in the context of how violence is parlayed in American society.
Y'all, I'm gonna play it again. I wish I could play it slowly. I'm going to play that again. Listen to what he is saying. He low-key, high-key is saying this is normal. This is what Black men do to Black women. They enact their rage and violence on Black women. This is normative. Who needs the sexist, radical feminist, LGBTQ woman, namely Black women in this case, when this is supposed to be your scholar and defender as a Black man, as a straight Black man? You see how he's speaking? This is supposed to be someone that advocates for Black men. In the ivory towers of academia. And you see how he's speaking about Black men? On NPR. Continuing. And pause. And this is not just a barbershop hair salon conversation. This is on NPR with white folks listening in, Latinos, Asians, driving to work. Or even if it's just NPR online. And this is supposedly a Black man with children talking about Black men like this. Talking about other Black men like this. Continuing.
So, in that regard, do these killings feel like they're one-off incidents, or is this a persistent issue to call attention to?
So now you're asking the question.
Oh.
I think many would like to believe that it's one-off,
Hmm.
that it's an aberration. But violence against women across the racial spectrum suggests that it's not an aberration, that it's normative.
Y'all heard that. It's normative. It's not an aberration. These are not outlier stories. So Black men, as we said, we were joking, but no, that is how they see it. Black men just walking in the house, backhanding everybody in the house. Everyone in the house getting it. These people took Color Purple way too far. It's not a movie, it's a documentary. Z, could you finally play the whole thing? Okay, here we go. Let's get into it.
So, in that regard, do these killings feel like they're one-off incidents, or is this a persistent issue to call attention to?
So now you're asking the question.
Oh.
I think many would like to believe that it's one-off,
Hmm.
that it's an aberration. But violence against women across the racial spectrum suggests that it's not an aberration, that it's normative.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand those folks who are cautious of demanding too much accountability to men who are accused, whether it's this man in Louisiana who we did not know,
Mm-hmm.
or it's Justin Fairfax, or if it's the more famous version of this narrative that has played out over the last 20 years, the Cosby, the Combs, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
There is this desire that we don't want to make the point that there's something so wrong with Black men that somehow the violence that they enact towards Black women makes them an outlier. Doesn't make them an outlier, right? It makes them normative in the context of how violence is parlayed in American society. And I think part of that is the shame that's associated with having to acknowledge these incidences when they occur, because what do they say about Black men? What do they say about Black women? To acknowledge these cases is us buying into the very violent stereotypes that have long been associated with who Black men are in the world. But I think ultimately our concerns about the optics of it cannot be as important as us dealing with the reality of what it means to have this violence in our communities. And how do we address and diminish that violence in our communities so that we can have much more productive lives with each other?
Yeah. So bringing up Diddy and Cosby to further reiterate the point. Black men can't be trusted with the safety of Black women. And you know the funny part, Miss Dr. Neil? Almost missed it. Dr. Neil, do you want to know the funny part? A good 25% of newlywed Black men actually agree with you. They do think, you know what? I can't be trusted with Black women, so I'm going to go end up with a non-Black woman. Oops. Huh? I can't be trusted to be solid and be in community with Black women, so I'm going to end up with someone else. And let's actually read this. It gives you a second. And Detroit says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Detroit says, I seen the Chris Brown sold out tickets when I was in Vegas. Well, no, sorry, not Vegas. I was in Los Angeles and last Saturday of last Saturday. These women from Compton are definitely going while their cost $3,000 per month. Oh yeah, while their bills or their rent or whatever costs $3,000 a month. Yeah, that's not stopping nothing. Oh, are you saying the tickets cost $3,000 a month? Yeah, I think that's what you're saying. No, you said $3,000 per month. Oh yeah, so their bills and all that other stuff. That's not stopping anything. Detroit, that's not stopping anything. The ladies were always going to go to a Chris Brown concert and pay that other $1,000 to go get the pictures taken backstage. Yeah. Detroit said it's actually rent, Z. $3,000 a month for rent. You barely making it. You're not making it, actually. But you know one thing, you ain't gonna miss that Chris Brown concert. And if you got the extra $1,000, you don't, but you still try to pull it to get the more, air quotes, intimate picture with Chris Brown, if you know what I'm saying. Giggity, giggity. Yeah. And thank you for the super chat, Detroit. Thank you for the super chat. Wow. Sold out tickets in LA and Compton. Yep. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Sound about right. I wanted to say sound about white, but I'm just saying, Black women trying to imitate white men and white people and blowing their money, their little money on a Chris Brown concert, knowing that they can't afford it. Put it on Klarna or Afterpay or whatever one of these things, and don't think the ladies ain't doing it. As a matter of fact, didn't we find out what was it that how many people they were paying for these things on one of these Klarna or Afterpay? What was it? It was something that just happened too, where we found out so many people paid for this thing on using alternative means instead of just having the cash. Right? And Turkish Tyrone says, and thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Z and bros, hyenas and Black men gynocrats equal most frequent anti-Black man propagandist on the internet. This is why AC, Accountable Commentary, does his stories. Save yourself, Black man. Yeah, that's why it's BM. Right? Yep. Hyenas and Black men hyenas and Black male gynocrats equal most frequent anti-Black propagandists on the planet. I still give it to white folks, but yeah, they are second place. They are second place. They are second place. They are. I'll still give it to white folks. White folks is still don't ever forget what Chris Tucker told Jackie Chan in what was that, Rush Hour 2, 3? It was 2. It was 2. Wasn't it? Yeah, I want to say 2. All the money is gonna lead you to an old white man. Just saying. So Turkish Tyrone, I agree with you, but they second place. They not first place. They don't have the resources and the capabilities to make it for them to be first place in the anti-black male misandry stuff. No. It's definitely still white folks. Primarily still white men. Yeah. Thank you, Detroit. Detroit said it was Rush Hour 2. Thank you, Rush Hour 2. Nah, it's still white folks. The black women wish. and I'm specifically talking about these very overt, in-your-face misandrous. Yeah, the hyenas, like you said, and black men gynocrats, yeah, they're not first. They're not first. They're second. They're definitely second, if not even third. And it's bad enough. It's bad enough, right? And thank you for the super chat, Turkish Tyrone. Thank you for the super chat. It's bad enough, right? Let's see, because I know I missed some. And KMS says, oh no, I read that earlier in the land of egalitarianism. Yep, I read that earlier. I read that one. This was such a great comment, KMS. Only question, who the 304 is choosing though? Hey, it's a simple question. To the point question. Accurate question, right? And Detroit says, and thank you for the super chat. Detroit says, also, this might be a bit risky. Channels are claiming that black manosphere or white supremacy, according to black women, has lost their way because Trump won. Oh, yawn. So now we're a bunch of white supremacists. Mr. Z, bald black man, Haitian descent, live in South Florida, is a white supremacist. No? Prefers black women, preferences black women, but I'm a white supremacist. Okay. Did not vote for Donald Trump. Did vote in the 2024 election. I did vote. Voted down ballot. Right? So did not vote for Donald Trump, but didn't vote for Kamala either. But according to these people, Detroit, black men have lost their way because 20% of black men, that's 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5 black men, 20% of black men, give or take a 0.5% or 2, voted for Donald Trump. 1 out of 5. Not even 2 out of 5, which is very possible. Y'all keep on going this direction. Anyway, y'all keep on pressing black men. But 1 out of 5 black men vote for Donald Trump, and black men have lost their way. Why? Because they're not voting lockstep with black women? Because black women have convinced themselves that they really are the moral compass, not just of the world, but of the black community specifically, not of just America, but of the black community specifically. Hey, say that. And GC says not worshiping black women equal white supremacists, specifically for black men. Yes. If you're a black man and you don't have your lips and your nose surgically attached to black women's ass, then you are a white supremacist. And we got one. Do we got one more to go? One more to go. Buckle up, everyone, because torture continuing. Oh, actually, before we do that, fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat.
You wrote a book called New Black Man just about 20 years ago.
Yes.
Who is that new black man? Like, paint me a picture of him.
The new black man was always something aspirational for me. Mm-hmm. I was never the new black man. That was never the point. Mm-hmm. But I was gesturing towards some sort of aspirational notion of black men who, first of all, were comfortable in their skins. Mm-hmm. Being raised as a black boy, as a young black man, becoming an adult, I always felt as though, masculinity was like this little small box.
Mhm.
And to be a real man, you had to figure out how to comport yourself to fit into that box. And if you either couldn't fit into that box or chose not to be in that box, you would be castigated for not being a real man, for not being a real black man.
Mhm.
A new black man is a black man who's comfortable in the skin that he is and in how he shows up as a man, regardless of what the large society says. A new black man is vulnerable, someone who can admit to pain and fear, who can acknowledge the ways in which they are worried about who they are in the world and are concerned about the threats that are directed towards us, right? We have this mythology of the strong black man. And, this vulnerability is important because, as we get older and they become real health challenges,
Mm.
black men tend to not to like to go to the doctor. Let me just man up. Let me take this Tylenol. let me take this Robitussin, and
Now, Dr. Neil, how far are you going to go with these comfortable for the NPR audience, old, tired tropes? Like, how far are you going to go with it? Dr. Neil, how safe are you trying to be? God damn. Say that. And Passport OG says, like, people give a F about our pain, including many, most, all. It ain't all. Many, most, a lot. Black women. As Passport OG says, once again, like, people give a F about our pain. Get the F out of here. Get out of here. With the New York accent. I don't have the Italiano New York accent. I need a real New Yorker to say to get the hell out of here. But it wouldn't be hell, but still. Right? That's funny, Trill. I see what you did right there, Trill. And Trill says, I don't trust doctors because they're all just in practice. I see what you did right there, Trill. That was dope. That was dope. Right. So these old, it's just so comfortable for the NPR audience. You're not challenging anything. You're not making black men seem any complex. Where's the nuance? You're a whole professor. You're a whole PhD. I'm a PhD. You're a whole PhD. Where's the nuance? Oh, I forgot. We're speaking about black women who were deleted by their spouse. So we have to bring black men in for the customary tongue lashing. No pun. For the dressing down. No pun again. And this is how we do it intellectually. And it's coming from a black man who's essentially saying, we really messed up mentally and emotionally and psychologically, we really messed up. I don't know if you want to be saying that in this climate, Dr. Neil. Continuing.
You wrote a book called New Black Man just about 20 years ago.
Yes.
Who is that new black man? Like, paint me a picture of him.
The new black man was always something aspirational for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was never the new black man. That was never the point. Mm-hmm. But I was gesturing towards some sort of aspirational notion of black men who, first of all, were comfortable in their skins. Being raised as a black boy, as a young black man, becoming an adult, I always felt as though, masculinity was like this little small box. Mm-hmm. And to be a real man, you had to figure out how to comport yourself to fit into that box. And if you either couldn't fit into that box or chose not to be in that box, you would be castigated for not being a real man, for not being a real black man. Mm-hmm. A new black man is a black man who's comfortable in the skin that he is and in how he shows up as a man, regardless of what the large society says. A new black man is vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Someone who can admit to pain and fear, who can acknowledge the ways in which they are worried about who they are in the world and are concerned about the threats that are directed towards us, right? We have this mythology of the strong black man. And, this vulnerability is important because, as we get older and they become real health challenges,
Mm.
Black men tend to not to like to go to the doctor. Let me just man up.
Word.
Let me take this Tylenol. Let me take this Robitussin, and go to sleep and I'll feel better. That's our body telling us that we're vulnerable, right? And there are folks whose job is to help us deal with those vulnerabilities. That's also what a new Black man is, right? A new Black man is both a caretaker and a caregiver. The most important job I've had in my life is as the father of my now 2 adult daughters, and understanding that the role that I played in their lives couldn't simply be making sure that they had food to eat and the bills were paid and there was a car to drive them to school. But, I had to
Mm.
share in the caregiving aspects of them. I had to show up emotionally for them.
Mhm.
I had to listen to their stories, right? I had to listen to their concerns and not judge. All these things that, don't necessarily come in the toolkit of what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I'm so thankful I was a girl dad, because I just see the world differently. Because at an early age, what they demanded of me, and this is not my 4-year-old daughter telling me this, but just seeing how they move through the world, it demanded that I pay attention to the kinds of threats that they were going to face in the
Yeah.
world, simply because they were women, and more importantly, simply because they were Black women.
Mm.
A new Black man is comfortable enough in his sexuality that he doesn't feel like he needs to lash out to Black men who identify as queer or trans men and trans
Yawn.
women, that they're comfortable enough in their sexuality that they don't see someone else's sexuality as a threat to theirs.
Yeah.
So it's all those kinds of things that I try to write through when thinking about, what a new Black man is.
I know that we're still in the thick of the tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
but from what you've seen of situations like this before, what could healing look like?
Healing could look like us having not just public conversations about violence in our communities, but more intimate ones. For Black men, it's about creating spaces, often with other Black men, where we feel vulnerable enough to share with other Black men about what our concerns are, what our fears are, what the things that we are afraid that we might do, to be in community with other Black men who have been there before, right? Or have known people who have been there before. And I think, one of the things that's been lost in this moment, and, I love social media, right? It has given us a capacity to communicate in ways that we hadn't had before. But a broadcast is not a replacement for sitting in a room with a dozen men talking about what it means to be Black men and to be concerned about where we are failing and where we hope to go. And
Mm.
even folks who were in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I always love Devil Way as a great example to talk about, for instance, patriarchy. Part of the journey is to accept that not only you're an alcoholic, but you're alcoholic always in a mode of recovery.
Mm.
You're never not an alcoholic, right? And once you accept that, you understand what the treatment becomes. We're never not invested in patriarchy. We're in recovery from patriarchy. If there's a way in which we need to be able to own that. But, you don't go to a podcast to figure out how to deal with alcohol addiction.
Mm.
You go to a room with a bunch of people who are suffering with alcohol addiction. And so we have to get back to the personal, the intimate conversations, to be close with each other, to share with each other. And we have to do it in a way, in terms of Black community, that crosses social barriers. So it just can't be a bunch of brothers with PhDs and MDs and JDs, right? It's got to be those brothers with dudes who were just on the corner 2 days ago, dudes who just got out of prison, dudes who might be going to prison. I mean, all of it, the whole spectrum in our communities of Black men. We need to create spaces where we can have intimate conversations about what it means to be us in this moment.
Wow. And Turkish Tyrone says, essentially, Black men are not worthy of being real men. Are we white? Turkish Tyrone, only real men in America are white men. Elite white men, to be exact. All the rest of us are cosplaying, according to these people, because you can't actually be a man. A man is a performance. You're a male, M-A-L-E, but a man, oh, that's a performance. Man, woman, in these people estimation, is a performance, and the only people performing that role are elite white folks. Huh? Can't mess. I seen what Passport OG said. I ain't gonna acknowledge it. It's funny. It's a good question. It's a really good question. Right? And these folks, I could imagine saying, why does it even matter? Huh? And so KMS says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. KMS says, this daddy daughter dummy. I should have proofread this. KMS says, this daddy daughter dummy. Hey fellas, quote, hey fellas, your goal is to be the throne, your queen can sit on, ish on, when she is tired from effing up her life. KMS. I would argue for Xers, millennials, and Gen Z, that's like 90% of them. Huh? The women on the internet are just the loudest about it. And once again, KMS says, this daddy daughter dummy, hey fellas, your goal is to be the throne the throne, your queen, and he purposely misspells queen, your queen can sit on, ish on, when she's tired from effing up her life. And then I caught a glimpse of this because Cheryl being funny. And Cheryl says it's 98.6% of them. This is not sustainable. Let's bring back that term on Mr. Z's channel. This is not sustainable. And as KMS says here, NPR dude trying to dodge raindrops in a hurricane. Not, first of all, not possible. Secondly, not sustainable. Dr. Neil, we're not going. We're not going. Tell the women to munch on each other or go be the sexual plaything for all men or and engage in some same-sex loving relationships also or situationships also. Yawn. Huh? Complete and total yawn fest. There was a part I wanted to address. Give me a second, y'all. Mr. Z Ramen.
You wrote a book called New Black Man just about 20 years ago.
Yes.
Who is that new black man? Like, paint me a picture of him.
The new black man was always something aspirational for me. Mm-hmm. I was never the new black man. That was never the point. Mm-hmm. But I was gesturing towards some sort of aspirational notion of black men who, first of all, were comfortable in their skins. Mm-hmm. Being raised as a black boy, as a young black man, becoming an adult, I always felt as though, masculinity was like this little small box. Mm-hmm. And to be a real man, you had to figure out how to comport yourself to fit into that box. And if you either couldn't fit into that box or chose not to be in that box, you would be castigated for not being a real man, for not being a real black man. Mm-hmm. A new black man is a black man who's comfortable in the skin that he is and in how he shows up as a man, regardless of what the large society says. A new black man is...
I don't know. Like, Dr. Neil, you are a man at the end of the day. We have rules over here and you know it. We have rules about integrity over here in man world and you know it. You would get your head clean taken off. I mean, literally. Where we give women some grace and some space, we do not give men. And you know it. Especially not a black man. There's rules over here. We don't do the wishy-washy thing over here. So yeah, that just be whatever man you want to be and F what society's saying. That sound good, but there has been plenty and many of young men talking real crazily, forgetting that they not their mama, they not a woman, and an old dad done slapped the fire out of them. I've seen it in real life before. We're men over here, Dr. Neil, you know that is not how it works over here in man world. You don't just get to do what you want to do and act how you want to act in man world. You don't catch yourself? Huh? You're gonna catch yourself on the sidewalk, waking up. Oh, what happened? Last time I stopped, I was swinging, and I thought of Dr. Neil. You know that's not how it go. The women are wishy-washy. They don't have no rules, no norms over there. Do whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. Double points if you harm men in the process. If you harm a man in the process, double points. In man world, we got rules over here. Huh? Continuing.
You wrote a book called New Black Man just about 20 years ago.
Yes, yes.
Who is that new black man? Like, paint me a picture of him.
The new black man was always something aspirational for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was never the new black man. That was never the point.
Mm-hmm.
But I was gesturing towards some sort of aspirational notion of black men who, first of all, were comfortable in their skins.
Mm-hmm.
Being raised as a black boy, as a young black man, becoming an adult, I always felt as though,
You wrote a book.
I'm sorry, y'all, technical difficulties. But yeah, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Definitely hit that like button, y'all. So yeah, look, we're wrapping it up, ending it out. Pause. I definitely want to cover this. Misandry disguised as concern. Shout out to Black Earl. Hopefully he'll get this, and he's the one who put the link down. I think Passport OG might have covered this. Passport OG, I didn't check out your stream earlier today, so I don't know if you did. Shout out to Passport OG, all the way on the other side of the globe, right? And yeah, I think Passport OG made reference to it my last stream, and then Black Uru sent me the link. Shout out to Black Uru, shout out to Passport OG. Yeah. So Dr. Ronald Neal, not Dr. Ronald Neal. Sorry, Dr. Ronald Neal. Dr. Neal is not saying anything too different at all, too different than we've been hearing for decades. This is standard issue. Oh, Mr. Miss my second super chat. I got you. Doreen Revise, give me a second. Let me scroll up. But yeah, he's not saying anything different. This is comfortable. This does not challenge anything. And because two black men acted erratically, harmed people, harmed children, harmed women, namely black women, you're framing, and I said this earlier in one of my comments, as a matter of fact, before I get to the Arena Revise, give me 1 second. Let me highlight my own goddamn comment. If I could find it, let me highlight my own comment, because there's something I wanted to address. If Z could find his own damn comment he highlighted, that he typed. There, no, that was GCS. Give me a second. Z, why did you put your own damn comment? How do you not see your own thumbnail, your own comment? I'll give Z a second. Scrolling. We've got some comments this stream. This is a later stream too. Wait a minute, I can't even find my own comment. I said something like, is the framing of what Dr. Neal was saying earlier made it seem like not all black men are these type of men. It's not that it's not all black men. That framing is still messed up. There we go. I found it. Haha. Not all. Do you mean the vast majority? I wanted to say of, I said or. Of black men don't harm black women. So this, not all. The not all, it could be 98%, and you could still claim not all, because technically you're right. You got it off of technicality. No, Dr. Neal. That framing leaves way too much space for misandry directed towards black men, framed as black female protection. No. It's not, not all black men are violent. Not all black men want to harm black women. Not all black men are eventually going to harm black women. No. The vast majority of black men are not going to physically harm black women. quite frankly, they're more likely to be harmed by black women emotionally and mentally and psychologically, and have their reputations ripped to shreds societally. Just saying, right? This is one of Mr. Z's peeves, right? You want to know what grind my gears? This is one of Mr. Z's things. The framing of this type of language. Well, not all black people are criminals. Wait, what are you saying? I'm just saying not all of you. No, the vast majority of us are not criminals. And if it wasn't for drug laws, majority of us, because the majority of folks, last time I checked, were in attempts, especially the majority of black men, are in prison for non-violent drug offenses. So the framing of this not all, right? And so let me read that comment from the Arena Revise. Give me 1 second, the Arena Revise. 1 second. That was the first comment from you. And we're looking for the second one. Okay. And there we go. Daryl Hamilton, and thank you for the super chat, the Arena Revise. Thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe to the super chat. And the Arena Revise says Daryl Hamilton, TV baseball commentator, was deleted by his girlfriend, who then set them both on fire. Sports media buried the story. 2015. Wow. Yeah, I'm glad I read that. Wow. Yeah, go against the narrative. It goes against the narrative. We have to have black man, boogeyman stories in America. This is as old as America, older than America. This story, this idea of these angry black men, if they're not shucking and jiving and smiling and showing teeth and grinning and skinning and grinning in front of white folks and women and black women, black men are some type of violent and harmful and a threat to society. And, well, public enemy number one, shout out to PE, right? Literally caught in the crosshairs. Once again, shout out to PE. Huh? So of course this type of story was going to get buried, because this is a woman behaving badly and heinous, right? So, and to be frank with you, can anything happen to a black man in America that it does not go justified? Anything negative that befalls a black man, could it not be somehow justified? Deleted by his girlfriend, who set both of them on fire. Sports media buried the story. Jeez. Huh? Yeah, no, it is. And Afro Merchant says it's intellectually lazy and unserious. Yeah, no. Look, we can't have an honest conversation about men, black men, and their humanity. And what does it mean to have a constant onslaught of misandry tailor-made for black men, anti-black male misandry? Huh? Man. Huh. And the Arena Voss says, and he's given us a bit of information on Dr. Neal. The Arena Voss says, Mark Anthony Neal is at Duke University. He threw on his cape for Duke lacrosse false accuser, Crystal Magnum. and was completely silent when she murdered her black boyfriend. She deleted her black boyfriend. Yeah, sound about right. These folks never show contrition for this type of, for being wrong. I was trying to be a little bit more nuanced with the language. Screw that. For being wrong concerning black men, these folks never show contrition. Maybe you might get it from a black man because he's a black man. So let's actually. They rarely. Let's give ourselves some wiggle room, some space. Giggity. These folks rarely, if ever, rarely show any contrition, show any sympathy or any understanding when, like, oh crap, you know what? My rhetoric and what I'm saying about black men as a black man, a straight one apparently too, it's wrong. I've been reading this wrong, and I've helped to put a target on black men's back even more than they already had. Man. Right? So on that note, y'all, closing out, we'll pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. The title of tonight's stream, better yet, is Misandry Disguised as Concern. Concern for Black women. I do not think at all it's a coincidence that we have this ostensibly heterosexual Black man, 2 children, daughters. Oh, man. The Rainer Vibes, because I was wondering, I was like, wasn't she in prison? Didn't we see an interview from her recently where she was showing, well, that was way more than recently, but where she was showing, she was apologizing and said she got these folks arrested and blah, blah, blah. And the Rainer Vibes says Magnum just got out of prison last month and she already deleted her Black boyfriend. The lacrosse false accuser. Man. So on that note, and thank you for that information, Doreen Voss. Yep. Sound about right. A month out, already deleting stuff. Going right back in. Welp. Right, so on that note, y'all. Oh, yeah, I actually was addressing this. Misandry disguised as concern. Concern for Black women, right? Which America doesn't have. By the way, America don't care nothing about no Black women either. But feigning concern for Black women so that you can punch down on Black men, because 1 or 2 Black men out of literally a couple tens of millions of Black men, 2, 3 Black men were extreme and did some heinous stuff to their supposed loved ones, and we're going to use that to bury Black men. Right? Oh, he said, no, she went to prison for deletion. For the deletion. Okay. All right. And Turkish Tyrone says the clip was torturous, but great show and engagement from the bros. That's what we do here on Mr. Z's channel. Shout out to Better You. Shout out to Terrell Bentley. That's what we do. We waterboard over here. Chinese water drop technique. What was it when it just one drop of water in the same space, in the same place, better yet, over and over again to drive you insane. That's what we do over here on Mr. Z's channel. Mr. Z doesn't get pleasure from it. Somewhere is Terrell saying, yes, you do, Z. But yeah, Mr. Z doesn't get pleasure, but it's part of the discourse. It is part of, and I really get off on, this is what I actually get off on, critiquing academics and our intellectual class and our tastemakers and their goddamn sexism and misandry. Right? Charles said, yes, you do. Like, that's what I actually, that's my thing. That's my jam right there. It's critiquing like the FD signifiers or the conscious lees who actually has awards for debating. Right? Like that's my thing. And critiquing, professors like Mr. Neil here. Huh? Elkson said, at least it's not TikTok clips. We will be getting back to our regularly scheduled programming sometime tomorrow or the day after, though, Elkston. Maybe Sunday at the latest. Right? And I still owe y'all a panel discussion. Elkston says, God damn it, no more TikTok clips. Look, the TikTok clips are there so we can do our pop culture, what's the term I'm looking for right now? Our current events, current pop, whatever the young people are talking about, whatever's trending, look at what this weirdo 304 said. Like, that's what the TikTok clips are, right? And TikTok clips and Instagram and YouTube shorts, yeah. Trail says sadistic Z. I don't know about all that, but yeah. So on that note, y'all, and thank you for that information, Dorina Rivas. I needed that. And shout out to KMS. Shout out to the rest of you. On that note, y'all, Mr. Z is about to, we gonna end it on out so we could go get talking about Z so we could get our Z's in. Yeah, trending topics. Thank you, Troll. I couldn't get it out. I couldn't get out the phrase. Yes, trending topics. So that's what the TikTok and Instagram and YouTube shorts and quite frankly some of the YouTube videos it's trending topics, which, by the way, it is not just pop culture. It's not just pop culture. We're critiquing pop culture stuff and trending topics, as Cheryl says, but it's more than that, because I want us to appreciate a lot of people are putting it on for the internet. We know this, but a lot of people are not. A lot of people are putting on for the internet, better yet, but a lot of people are not. They mean what they say. They mean it. They may not mean it 2 seconds later, but they mean what they say. Huh? So on that note, everyone, we'll pause right here. Truly, love, peace, and chicken grease. Shout out to the replay gang. Thank you button, hype button. Please press the hype button on your way out. It should populate right when I end the stream. Right? Nope, I haven't seen it yet, Passport OG. Passport OG, you gonna do a video on it? A think piece on it? And Passport OG says, Z, you saw Chrissy's Meg video yet? No, I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. I saw the thumbnail, but I haven't watched it. Yeah, I didn't even click it for it to be in my history, but it did pop up as I am subscribed to Chrissy. Z, you're subscribed to her? How else would I know when she posts something insane or trying to defend another swirl or deletion situation? Oops. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I'll get to it. So on that note, everyone, we will pause right here. This is like Mr. Z's third, fourth attempt at an outro. We will pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content, for the love of God. And Mr. Z out. And Afro Merchant is correct. Peace. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Mr. Z out.
You are now listening to Mr. Z Blackneffect.